Hey kids, welcome to Stylus Rumble ringing typing! I put this poor fairy on the back burner for so long. I don't even remember what I've done so far. So I'm just going to take a quick inventory of what I have. Okay, so let's start with announcements. Let's back up. Let's start with announcements, and then we'll jump into this fairy rig. So, not a whole lot to say. I did a hangout with Tony Ross on his channel. If you want to go check out his YouTube channel, OnionSkin popped in for a while, and Tiarawhy. So if you guys are not familiar with those people, please go check out their channels because they're amazing. Of course, OnionSkin's done the super fantastic Read Between the Frames series. Tony Ross is from TonyTeach.com. He's got all sorts of learning, which I know you guys are into. Otherwise, why would you be here? And Tiarawhy does some Rick and Morty stuff, all sorts of interesting things. So they're fun to go check out. He's talking about doing future hangouts where we get a lot of the YouTube Toon Boomers on there. I think that'd be super fun. So hopefully that works out. I'll keep you apprised of anything like that that happens in the future. So let's get into these shoulders. Boop, boop. Shoulders are the worst part of character rig. They're just so awful. There's no way to make a perfect shoulder. It just doesn't exist. So depending on how complex your character is, you're going to want to take your time and see what sort of shoulder is going to work best for you. But I definitely recommend having shoulders. I definitely recommend having shoulders because when a character rig doesn't have a shoulder, it's so much harder to animate. I can't even describe. This character, she has very broad, squared off shoulders, which are a little bit of a pain in the butt. I am rounding them out a bit. Here you can see this is a little bit pointier than this because I want this round edge to keep lined up here because I'm just using a simple patch joint here. But then she's also able to raise her proper shoulder up like this. And I highly recommend doing that. Boop. I'm even going to put in some shoulder deformers because it's so time saving to be able to shrug those shoulders and do super fun things with this. This is one of the places where I think you get a ton of bang for your buck out of putting in a deformer. I'm going to make sure that's an envelope deformer. Nothing worse than finding out your deformer's got that solid thing. So by putting this shoulder in, you're able to give her some shrugs and stuff, get some real work out of this character. And by just raising it up like this, you get some weirdness. But there's not really much you can do about it with a character that looks this much like a human. Let me just do some doodles here and talk about shoulders. I do have a whole episode on shoulders, but we'll just go over it quickly. So if you're this guy, hello, and your shoulder looks like this, so here's your little joint there, you cannot raise this arm above horizontal without engaging this bone here, like this part of your shoulder. It's not possible. You can't do this. It just doesn't happen. Your clavicle comes up and this muscle back here, I want to say trapezius, but I might be wrong. All of this stuff comes up like that. And then there's a whole lot of stuff behind because here's your ribs. Come in like this. And there's your armpit, which no one can draw properly. I know some of you can, but I'm not good at it. So there's all this stuff happening that you can't just draw a circle and make this and all of this junk up here and these things happen. So your best bet, or the way I go about it, is to do this, where you have a little shoulder that you can adjust like that, and then you can bring in your arm like this. Now, there's still, it's still not perfect because, I want, let's see if I can do that. Because I want some lines down here to exist. So this raising the arm pose is really difficult to do and cut out because ideally you're going to want some more control here because you just can't. You can't do it, guys. You can just kind of make it up as you go here. Sometimes you have to draw in some drawings. And of course this circle is not going to stay. It's going to be gone. So I put in some drawing substitutions to fill that in. But I don't know of a perfect solution there. I'm sorry, I don't know. Boop. Gonna put in my other one, make sure it's an envelope. Boop. When I get those odd joints, it's usually just to play hardball with the rig, so really just slam it into place and then add in some drawing substitutions where I need to. Especially like the more muscular a character is, the more difficult it is to make these cutout shoulders work. Especially because, I mean, this character, she's fairly muscular. She's got a little bit of a shoulder here. But if you have a character like this, or he has these great big shoulder, you know, someone where you're really going in and putting in a bunch of obnoxious cartoon muscles. Why does he have little dainty hands? So trying to find a way to cut out this, it just isn't, you're never going to get, it just doesn't happen. Of course, the big muscular guy needs all this stuff drawn in. So if you do have a character that's super duper muscular like this, it might be worth your time to put in drawing substitutions for those raised arms. It's really something you're going to have to play around with. A lot of characters, I mean, you just have a body and then you just got an arm like this. Then you can just put a pivot point in. Boop, no problem. I'd still recommend putting in some sort of a deformer here when you need it. I mean, you could probably get away with just a full envelope deformer if your character is just a circle, if you needed to do a shrug or something. Some characters you could get away with. If your character looks like this and he's just got a little nub arm, then, I mean, you don't need to worry too much about anatomy when you're shrugging that kind of a shoulder. You can just put it right up above his face. I don't know. I don't know. This shoulder stuff is hard, you guys. Oh, and of course I didn't save when I was doing my lip sync the other day, so I'm going to have to go through and revise all those lips I did. I did shrink them down, though, because they're a little bit... They're just a little bit too big. That's better. So let's see. I think we're getting to the point now where this front view's done. She doesn't have feet. She doesn't have hands, but that's something we can add in very easily later. I still haven't decided what I want her boots to look like. So if you guys have some like super cute fairy boots, you're like, oh my god, I love these super cute fairy boots, then share those with me. Yeah, I think I was playing with the idea of changing the skirt before. I don't want to break it up too much, so I want to be able to do drawing substitutions. I might actually simplify it. I might change my mind about the whole thing I did already and change it again. Because I've got some shots in my rough boards where she does some, or I've got to do some more three-dimensional stuff. So she's like looking like, oh no, things are happening. We'll really have to play around here and build something. I might just build new things when I need them. And I haven't got her hair done. I've started it. It's just so detailed. Rotating it is a big pain in the behind. But it's going to be worth it. Worth it. Alright, so let's get rid of these guys here. Boop, boop. Let's go into our drawing. And I'm going to keep the top of the ring. That's useful. Let's put that on the other layer for now. And clean up the other one. Boop, boop, boop. So this one, as you can see, still has a lot of old-timey stuff from when I first drew the arm. You never know what you're going to get from your design department, how much they know about rigging or how intuitive they are about it. So sometimes you have to do a lot of surgery to get your arms and stuff working. And other times you'll have a designer that's been just sent down from the heavens who knows exactly what you're needing and has a really great idea of what is going to help you guys out. It's good to keep chatting with your designers. If you have something that's consistently causing you a ton of time to revise, it's definitely worth talking to your design team about having something that's a little bit more friendly, because your team, you got to work together. And then I have to round this guy out a bit. It's never good to take a long break when you're rigging these characters, because then you completely forget what your choices were. I don't rig nowadays in the studio very often. I'll do maybe R&D, or I'll check over rigs or give suggestions and stuff, but I don't do very much full-time rigging anymore. I just don't have the patience for it. When you're at it every day, it's so much easier to have a good workflow and just have everything under control. Sometimes I forget how to do my job when it's been a while. So let's see if I can put in a little line here. It might or might not work. Some designs I've been able to pull it off and others I haven't. So it can't be that long. It has to be shorter. So I'm just trying to build a line in here so that when I raise the arm, like a line down here that I can play with. So this top part, I'd have to pull that out quite a bit before I saw it. No, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it off. Yeah, I feel like I'm just going to go with drawing substitutions for these shoulders because I want a really anatomical looking shoulder and I can't. There's no way to do that as the way I want it to look in my head. So we've got these shoulders fairly what I want. Here, I think I'll put the lower arms ahead. Boop. So the lower arm and the hand. Boop. On this side and this side. I'm going to put those ahead of the torso because most of your poses, your hands are going to be in front. That's just common sense. So here's my torso. Boop. Boop. We're going to bring those ahead. This is what you name things. There we go. So most of your poses, your character is going to have your lower arm in front of the body. Does your wrists feel very skinny? Maybe I'll make these lighter so that they stand out better against her body. I'm not good at colors. I think I'm going to bother some friends and ask them to take a look at my colors and give me some suggestions, because color styling, that's best left to the professionals, kids. So the next step is we're going to start rotating this character. Hooray! Let's go and find our art. This is going to be our next pose, and I've had some people ask me about pivot points. Because when you go from the 3/4 front to the front, or the side, or whichever one you happen to be turning to, your pivot points are going to be off. So a lot of people use drawing pivots because you can adjust them as they go around. But drawing pivots are old-timey, so when you put in your deformers, it's going to break everything. So you have to duplicate all your drawings, and it's a big pain in the butt. And they also don't animate between substitutions. So instead, what we're going to do is the tedious task of going through the entire character and rotating the pivot points into place where we're going to want them to go. So let's shrink down. This feels like it's getting big. This everything's a little spread out. I think I'm going to compact this a little bit before I ship it out. But here, because we've gone in previous episodes and then we put in all these drawing substitutions, our character actually has a bunch of stuff on this layer. I'm going to just delete that layer, or that frame, because it's just drawing substitutions for these legs down here so that we can switch back and forth. I don't want those to be animated anywhere. It won't hurt it, but it'll be a pain to see where I'm going. So I'm going to take my torso peg. It goes about here. Doesn't feel like it's in the middle. Let's just middle it up a little bit. And then we're going to, on this frame, we're just going to animate it. So you can use these tools up here, or you can use this and hold your middle mouse button and you can animate that along. I'm going to use this because it's a little bit more precise. It's going to stay right on task here. It's not going to go up or down. And it's easier to select, I find, than the middle mouse button. First step, keyframe, your first frame. Even though everything's at 0, you can Control-Alt, Shift-R, and it's going to zero everything out. You're going to want to do that. Make sure everything's where it belongs. And then you're just going to go frame by frame. You're going to want your torso to bend around here. Start at the top, as always, and work your way down. Now, I don't need a torso peg and a chest peg, do I? What's the difference? The belly. That feels optional to me. I might end up taking that out. The belly. So you may be able to just find the place you need. It depends on how precise the area is. You may want to go in your artwork, make sure you're on, say, the overlay layer, just so you're not drawing on your art. Make sure your art's not on the overlay layer. That would be silly. And then let's size down our thing, make it a little more precise. And we're gonna find our pivot points. This guy is gonna be about there. And hold Shift so that it doesn't go up or down. So I want it to stay relatively the same height. This part ain't glamorous, but it's so much better than drawing pivots, I promise. The advantage to this is even if you're not going to do a big deformer rig, like a official 360 Toon Boom Nelvana style, multiple deformers, envelopes on everything, it's still going to animate between your pieces. So you're not going to get an ultra smooth 100% success rate like you would if you put in a million envelope deformers, but it's much more processor friendly and it animates fairly well. You're going to get a fairly smooth transition. So maybe you won't get 20 in-betweens between your front and your 3/4, but you could easily get 3 that work nicely and aren't a big pain in the butt. And if you're in 2D, like unless you're working on something with feature quality where you have huge amounts of time to spend really putting nuance in, I find a lot of the time the expectation of these ultra smooth 360 situations, it's just really unrealistic for the time frame you have in television animation. So a lot of that stuff is just, it doesn't get used, which I think is a shame. So I'm just going along and I'm just animating my pivot point into the place where these rings say they should be. And sometimes they feel weird. They're like, how come it's going backwards? But you can see it's kind of rotating along here, what you'd expect to be. Like this one's a little bit lower. And you can keep these or not, these circles. I mean, you can use them later to fill in your torso, whichever piece you're doing. Next piece down, upper arm, lower arm. The limbs I'm gonna leave for last. I'm gonna go up here and do the head. The head is one where you don't need to draw all these circles. You can just eyeball it. You know it's gonna be, you want it to rotate around the neck. The side views, I might need to move this up more around here just to keep this smooth, but I'll ballpark it for now. And this is the way you can also double check your pivot points and see that they're all working fine. This is kind of a weird pivot. Oh, so here, I've done the right eye, this guy up here. This is why you start at the top. So I've done the right eye, and I've gone all the way around. And now when I go down to my eye color, it's already moved because this controlling peg is moving it. So you might need to adjust a little bit depending on how meticulous you feel like being with your eye color or whichever piece it is, because of course your eye color can move around and stuff, and you're just going to move it where you want it to move anyway. But you can see that the highlights, the eyes here are already moved around. The pupil follows the eye color, so it's already exactly where I want it to be. And the fact that it's actually the size has changed here, that's something we can address too as we do this rotation. So here I'm going to extend the eye so we can actually animate the eye into place here once we start getting down these nitpicky layers. I like to start at the very top first, and then we can start playing with this and getting it into place. So you want to deactivate stuff. You could also move the eye over here and then eyeball this because we want to move our pupil, our eyelid back a little bit. Feels okay. The highlight's actually flipped here. I'm not going to do that over here though. Oop, and then we're going to move our eye into place as best we can. Now if this is somebody else's art, you need to match this up 100%. You can't take it upon yourself to eyeball the eye. You're going to want to paste in the new artwork. But because this is my own character, I can decide if I think that this eye is close enough or not. And I mean, I think it's close enough. Looks like her pupil changed size in the other one, which is not something I want to happen in real life. Here, when the eye goes behind the head, you have a choice of either putting in blank drawing substitutions, not empty frames. You don't want empty frames here. So I think I'll do an empty drawing substitution here of the eye and delete everything from all the layers because it's behind her head. And none of these are visible, so those, because they're actually being cut by the eye. And I have an eyeshadow drawing here, but I didn't use it. So I'm just going to deactivate that for now so that it doesn't confuse me. So the next time the eye is visible is here. So what I'm going to do is copy the front view, boop, and then come over here and animate that eye into place. There, easy peasy. Now we have this eye that just kind of floats around in space. But every single piece of the character has to go around this way. 5. I'm going to do the other eye since we're here. Start at the top. The features peg is done, so we're going to use the right eye and animate it into place. Now with these side eyes, I didn't do the other side eye. This guy here is not done. There's probably not going to be a way to animate this into place. You're going to get your best bet. So let's move it over here. I want the pivot point to be on this part of the eye. So even though I'm going to have to stretch this and do a whole bunch of stuff, that's where I want my ultimate pivot point to be. And since I have to change my artwork anyway, I might as well put the pivot point close to where I want it. Here will be fine. So this one, you never really get a 3/4 eye that smoothly transitions into a side eye and looks good. Like if you have a character whose eye is just a sphere, you can get away with it. But here, what I'm going to do is duplicate the drawing on the eyelash, and then I'm going to use the new art here and just paste it in. So it'll animate for a little while to get close to this new drawing, but it'll never be 100%. So let's paste in our new art, and you can either paste in your eye white or you can just adjust it, because you want your eye white to be a little bit bigger than your eye line, because that saves you from the little anti-aliasing problems you can get. Some people have messaged me about that. When your pupil and your eye white are like when it's being cut here, you can get some little errors. So keeping it a little bit bigger than your line is going to help you there. So I'm just going to do sort of a fakey side eye. Man, her pupils are massive. Some crazy big eyes. Now, let me just copy and paste these 2 frames of the eye over here. If we spread these out and tween them, you can see even though the art is changing, the eye is doing an okay job here of transitioning. I haven't fixed her makeup layer yet. See, so the art's changing here to here, but it's I mean, there's no deformers in this at all, but it's still rotating okay. Good enough for me, anyway. You kids and your deformers, get out. But I'm not bitter. Oh, let's fix her makeup a little bit. Girl, who did your makeup? Looks like Tracy did. She's so bad at it. Yeah, so we're going to have to change it on the art layer. Bloop. Duplicate the art. And then you can just get rid of this old stuff here. Bloop, bloop, bloop. And now when I want to do the next eye, I'm going to grab the front. I always start at the front because that's my 0 position. So you can't see it here. So we're going to extend the exposure on that other eye, that old goof eye, and then paste our front eye. Boop. So like here, I start with the eye, the total eye. And then once it's moved into place, I'm not going to keep using this to squish it, because then it's squishing the pupil and I don't want that, the colored part. So now I'm going to move down to just the eyelashes, and I'm going to move those into place. If I want to move the whole thing, I step up again. And then if I want to smush or skew or do anything a little bit weirder, I'm going to switch that art to the lower one. Boop. And now I can just adjust this so she's looking. I mean, the eye color and stuff you can put anywhere you want. It's because you're going to adjust it as you animate, but it's just kind of nice to have her look straight ahead. Make sure she got that vacant stare going. Hooray! Now let's fix that side eye. So we might need to change the drawing substitution here as well if her pupils look a little bit funny when they're slammed right over to the side there. But I'm going to try not to use too many side views. It's kind of just aesthetically side views just look weird. 3/4 is your standard. And we can do the head next. Boop, boop, boop. So often the head is done with deformers. Let's bloop. See, you can see it's rotating around. I'm going to turn her jaw on as well. I haven't animated that yet. The jaw and the mouth are also have their own daily tasks. The front art, as you can see, does not look super stellar all the way around. I think I will use envelope deformers here because I want her face to look super tight. So let's do that. I think I'm going to keep the jaw separate because once we put in drawing substitutions for the lips, we're going to have to muck around with that deformer. So I'm going to put an envelope deformer on the skull. And I think I'll start with too many pieces. We'll see if this works. And for all that is good in life, if you're going to use an envelope deformer, make sure you spend as much time as you need to get your line drawn exactly the same right along the edge of the character or the line that it's actually going to be manipulating, because then you will get the least amount of strange fracturing and discrepancy between your deformer and your line. I hate when I get a deformer that's just like has nothing to do with character, like it's lined up like this. It's just so imprecise. It causes so many problems, and it's so easy to fix. You just have to take your time. So now we put a deformer in, you need a new keyframe, which I will 100% of the time forget. Well, I guess 99% of the time because I just remembered. Yep. So now we're going to take this head and we're going to smush it into place. We could actually animate it back now, get this guy as close as I can, and then use, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to close that contour. Merp. All right. This will work better now we've got our closed contour because we're not going to get the fracturing down here. The most important thing with the skull is the visible part, which is going to be the curve here of the brow curve. Let's just tell this jaw to be quiet for a little while, because I don't want to see you right now. Boop, boop. What do you mean you find rigging confusing? Does this look confusing to you? Because we're using deformer, we're going to get a super smooth rotation, which is sweet. It's great in places where you're really going to get a lot of value out of it. So the head is great because if you're doing face acting or something, you want to do some subtle turns, or you want to have the character look up or look down, you're going to get a lot of flexibility there, and it's a place where you get a lot of value out of it. So it's all about value. Does the deformer add more value than it takes away performance? Then by all means throw it in there and enjoy. I have a feeling that my artwork shifted because I'm getting a lot of that problem. So I'm not going to go through this all tonight because I have to edit this and post it tomorrow. As much fun as an hour-long session of me thinking and humming is going to be, I'll whittle it down a little bit. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing over the next week. I want to get a few episodes in the bag because I'm trying to go home for a week or so I won't be here to add a new video, but I'll try and get something in the can ahead of time so that I don't skip a week, because I did take a few weeks off and I feel a little bit bad about it, but not really because my eyes were broken. I'm really bad at taking breaks, which is how I broke my eyes in the first place. So what do you guys want to see in the next few videos? Those of you who've actually made it to the end of this tedious video, let me know down below, and let me know if you have questions about this. The best bet, if you want to see something like this where I go into a little bit more explanation as I go along, is to look at the fancy face video in my rigging playlist. All my videos are broken up into various playlists based on themes. So if you're interested in effects, I have an effects playlist. If you're interested in rigging, I have a rigging playlist. That's the best place to start looking if you have a specific question in mind. But if there's something missing, let me know and I will add it to the queue. Alright, so I'm going to hide the mouth because it looks bonkers. But you can see that our head's starting to take shape. There's definitely, I gotta double check my art. Look at her bouncing around. And I'll copy these over here and just space them out a little bit. Plus, 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 plus. And then between them. to check, because you always check your work. So you can see she's bouncing around. That art is definitely not lined up, but the actual tweens between, even here, as the character's head is rotating around, the eye actually feels like it's starting to move around the head. So this is, the skull here has deformers, but the eyes have none. And you see the nose is starting to rotate around as well. I just have to put in all my art there. Starting to look like stuff. I'm going to double check that art. Make sure it's not bouncing around. I might have to go change in some of my pivot points and stuff. Make sure you save. But it's going to be worth it to have a nice smooth rotation. Whee! Alright, so thanks for sticking around, kids. I'll post another video next week with some sort of mysterious thing. I'm not going to give up on this fairy. This fairy's going to get done someday, I promise. Like, share, subscribe, all those things that your people ask you to do, and I will see you in the next video.